Good day, my friend. So, I wanted to ask today, where are you at in the heroic race? Because, I mean, we've got High Seismic here, we've still got like a week left. I've just made it to lap 12, and we are on the wonderful, beautiful breeding node, which is everyone's favourite, of course. Anyway, the important thing is that on the heroic race, the thing that I wanted to talk about is this thing where players assume all the time that just because you get to a higher level, or just because you're more active in a race, that means that every single time you play a heroic race, that means that your opponents are going to be a higher level, they're going to get to much higher laps and that sort of thing. And I understand that there's been some sort of communication from the Dragon City team that says that, you know, the more active you are, the more active your opponents are. But I mean, I'm active every single heroic race. I've never failed a heroic race so far. And I mean, this race, you can see that my opponents are on lap 6. And lap 6 for this point in the heroic race is not very active. Like, that's just the reality. Realistically, if you want to be on pace for the heroic race, you should be on around about lap 12, lap 13 right now. And that's, of course, if you've been logging in a lot, if you've been gemming a couple of the battles, that sort of thing. But realistically, if you want to be on pace for where you could reach as a free-to-play player with a minimal amount of gem spend, you could be on lap 13 by now. Now, that doesn't mean that everyone's got the same life situation, and it doesn't mean that all of these players are like just super inactive by choice or anything, but like you can get to lap 6 in a day. You don't need 3 days to do that, and that's even if you're quite busy. So, you know, I get that players say these things all the time because there's some communication from the devs, but trust me when I say that as a player, most of your opponents, even if you are super active in every single race, they're probably going to be inactive most of the time. And so this is why I highly suggest for people to not give up on heroic races, even if they see that someone's been logging in day 1, day 2, because like my opponents this time, they instantly logged in and they were doing their laps, not a tons of them on day 1, but they were like lap 3, lap 4 straight away. And then players just get bored, and then they see things like, you know, this lap 12 node 1 breeding quest where you go do 12 dragon breeds, and there's no cooldown, there's no pulls on this, so you just have to get 12 successful items from breeding, and that can take like an hour. Now, the way that I've done it is the same way as always. You know, we pop 2 lots of non-empowered terrors in these breeding dens, we breed them together, and we just keep doing it over and over and over again. I'm lucky because I've got PC, which means I've got 2 monitors, which means that I can just, you know, while this is going on, just have something else playing on in the background, just crap post in Discord, whatever it might be. But it's about repetitive, boring tasks, and that's what gets a lot of players to just stop playing heroic races. I also think a big problem with this heroic race in particular that I actually don't agree with is a lot of people are saying that High Seismic is just a bad heroic, and I just don't think that's true. You know, the other times where people said, oh, this heroic sucks, there's no point doing this race, would be for dragons like High Siren, it was for dragons like High 5, it was for dragons like High Heroic, and now suddenly people are like, wait, High Heroic, they sound pretty good. People said the same about High Famine as well, and they were like, High Famine's pretty bad because, you know, primary is pretty bad. And then now suddenly players are like, you know who would have been really good for my team? High Famine. And now, yeah, you don't have players with High Famine. So I just see this so often, and I'm not saying that High Seismic is going to be like the best heroic ever of all time. I'm not saying that. But these heroics, every time you get them and you empower them with their quests and their heroic combat quests, that's just free empowered heroic basically for not too much work. And at the same time, there's going to be specific arenas where you can use these heroics. So as much as player XYZ might be true in saying that a particular heroic race heroic isn't the most overpowered heroic ever on the, you know, on the surface, I highly recommend always trying your best to get these heroics from these races and doing the empowerment quests, even if you're a brand new player. It's mainly just because you never know what sort of restrictions we're going to have in a particular Masters arena, and when that does happen, High Seismic may end up being one of the good choices. And I'm just saying, if you have a level 50 heroic there rather than no option or a really bad like basic legendary or something, you're gonna wish you had High Seismic at the time. Or even if it's not High Seismic, the next heroic that we get, for instance. Like, I get it, Drowsy's really good, right? Drowsy's a really good heroic. Where is my Drowsy even? The reason why players love the heroics such as High Drowsy is because they're anti-meta elements. Because, you know, we've got Dream, which was super good against, you know, Sinfuls and Blood Gods. Then we got Wind, which was super good against dragons like, you know, the Time Dragons. And then we've got Soul, which is also really good against Ancient World elements. And then Time is super good against dragons like Corrupted Legend. And, you know, Drowsy, that means that they basically just got 4 anti-meta elements, realistically. So of course players love dragons like High Drowsy, and if you can E5 High Drowsy, that's going to be insanely useful heroic. But that doesn't mean that every single heroic that doesn't have 4 really good elements is bad. I mean, it's still a category 11 dragon with really good stats, and I just don't think that most players that give up on these heroics are doing so with enough foresight. You can if you want, and if you just don't care about him, maybe you already have a dragon that you think is going to fill his spot, that's fine. But I think especially a lot of newer players get misled by players saying, nah, Seismic sucks. It's not true. Seismic does not suck. Seismic is fine. Now, that may change depending on any in-game changes, but you know, you can in fact use any heroic in the game. Some have very slightly lower base stats, which doesn't make a huge difference in combat. But like if we compare all of the heroics in the game, the older the heroic is, the lower the attack stat generally is. So like the first released heroics, they're a little bit lower. So if you have a dragon that's got the same elements but a slightly higher amount of damage, you might as well use the higher damage one. But it depends on the elemental composition of the heroic. And honestly, some of the recent heroics have been really good. Especially, again, you know, we've got High Toy Town, we've got High Drowsy. Some players love High Treasure, for instance. And you know, right now we have like Beauty Open Masters Arena where High Nest, High Cinco, High Destiny, High Siren, they have been insanely useful in this Masters Arena. Like you can beat dragons that are a much higher level than you by having dragons that are powerful, like with their boosted stats in those arenas. And you know, all those players that were like, nah, High Nest sucks, Cinco sucks, well, suddenly we have an arena where they're actually pretty good. Now, I'm not saying that they're perfect, especially Cinco in this arena, but just having these dragons available as a free-to-play player for little effort with, you know, if you just do some of the trading when the heroic quests are on for these dragons, which they are right now, for instance, like High Seismic, we have his quests on right now. So once we get a High Seismic dragon, then we can get food, we can get some gems, we can get orbs for High Seismic. It's just free orbs for a heroic, which it's free empowerment basically. So I don't see any reason not to want to get these dragons empowered if you can. Obviously, if you don't want to waste the heroic trade essence, I get it. But just at least doing the heroic combat quest by saving up some food, getting the dragons from the race, and most of your opponents are probably mostly going to be inactive. You might get 1 or 2 players that end up being a little bit active, but in that case, just get to lap 15, get the heroic, and hope that you get the other dragons as well from your position in the race. But I guess what I'm just trying to say is don't give up on these heroic races too early. Honestly, even if you are at a low lap right now, there's still a week to go, so you have plenty of time between now and 7 days from now to get to lap 15, guarantee this heroic, and get them empowered. So, I don't know, I say it every time, but I think that players love to jump on the this dragon sucks bandwagon way too quickly, and mainly I think it's just because they're too lazy. They don't want to do the event, they don't want to do that race, which is fine. If you don't want to play that race, just play another game, do something else, do something more productive with your life, that's fine. But I don't think it's really right to just completely mislead people and say, you know, this dragon just sucks. Because they don't. Also, my gem count, I like the number. But, you know, since I wasn't really around for the very start of the heroic race properly, I just wanted to get this out there because I've seen a lot of this about High Seismic in particular. And again, you can use High Seismic if you're a new player. If you get High Seismic, he's your first heroic, you can use him for a while. You can max rank him, he'll do good work for you in the leagues, he'll do good work at least for a short amount of time until you get better dragons for your team. You know, I just don't want you giving up on actually pretty decent dragons just because random Discord user or random Facebook user 69 told you that it sucks and didn't really give you any context and couldn't really explain why. So that would be my advice to you. I mean, again, if you look at my profile, which my profile is a collecting profile, it's not even a battling profile, so just think about that. And look at all the dragons that I have mostly empowered. They are mostly heroic race dragons. And that's because you get so many orbs from the heroic race that even though my account is a collecting account, so I'm mainly using most of my jokers usually, not right now, but usually I use them for summoning or getting other things done just to get more dragons actually collected. But even then, as a collector, most of my dragons here, the ones that are empowered, are the heroic race dragons. It's super easy. Now, if I was actually focusing on empowerment focus, I could probably have 6 of these dragons at E5 by now. But, you know, that's just a different focus that we have in the game. So, I just want to show this as an example that most of these dragons that I have as a player are the heroic race heroics. And these dragons, at some point or another, especially when they get like high synco and high scale, they're nearly E5. So once all these dragons get fully scaled up, we are going to have tons of team members. Now, they might not all be heroic VIPs, for instance, but this is a ton of dragons to use in tons of different types of arenas and different band arenas and things like that. So we are going to have a massive selection of dragons to use at some point, probably not too far from now. So just bear that in mind when random user is telling you that all these dragons suck. I'm going to tell you right now, from my experience in the arena, these dragons do not suck. If you go against my team, it might be easy to deal with them because, you know, you might get first turn, you've got your own skills, but then the AI sucks. So the AI is never going to use the enemy dragons appropriately. Of course, unless it's a karma, then suddenly it's going to turn on the block 90% of attacks move. Oh, I love it when I get blocked 16 times against karmas. You know, that actually happened to me 2 days ago. I actually lost a league bell because there were 2 karmas and I think they blocked, I think it was 13 times in a row. There's nothing you can do. I cannot believe that I actually lost a league bell like 2 days ago. I felt so bad. I wasn't watching what was going on. I probably could have avoided it if I was playing, but I was not playing. But just to make you aware that the game feels like that sometimes. But anyway, I'm getting very, very distracted and off topic. As you can see, that even though I've been doing quite a lot of breeding while I've been here, we're still only at 7 out of 12, so I'm going to continue to grind this out and hate my life during the duration of this breeding, but hopefully we'll be on lap 15 very soon. I think my goal for this race is purely going to be lap 16 for the mythical egg chest. It's a shame we don't have a cool dragon like Haunted Hottie this time, but I'll probably go for the mythical egg chest. We could easily probably make it to the Titan chest if I really cared enough. But my main focus for this race is just going to be mythical egg chest and not really care too much and just probably completely stop spending gems at that point. But it's just a showcase that you can easily get to lap 15 with like 4 days left, even if you're not super diligent and even if you only spend like, how many gems have I spent? Like 40? Maybe, yeah, probably about 40-ish gems is what I've spent on this race so far. We're on lap 12 easily. I probably don't even need to spend any gems, but it's just about getting to lap 15, guaranteeing it without, you know, with plenty of time to spare, not even having to worry about the race then. At least that's my way of doing it. Just don't give up on these races so early. Because even if you are super active, in my experience, pretty much every single race, apart from very few of them, and most of them were actually, when I was at lower level, they were the ones that had players that were going beyond lap 15. Most of the recent races for me, no one has even been qualified, or if they have been qualified, it's been barely, and then they're not making it to the heroic most of the time. So, you know, I just don't want you to give up, basically. You can do it if you want to, if you have the time. If you don't have the time, don't worry. I know, real life is more important, school is more important, work is more important, of course. But if you do want to put in the effort to do these races, there's no reason to give up, because even if you're a higher level player than you were before, these players, as you can see on average, you can look at all of my past videos on this as well for when I actually got the dragon, they're usually not at a very high lap. Now, that's not going to be the case every single time, and my experience isn't going to be the same as yours, but trust me, from everything that I see from other players posting their leaderboards, my own experiences, and seeing different things on various social media, most players just can't be bothered. That's all it comes down to.